For decades, we were told a lie. Not a small lie. Not a minor historical oversight. A fundamental, civilization-scale lie about who we are, where we came from, and which part of this earth first gave birth to human progress. We were told that this region, the great subcontinent of South Asia, was an empty fortress, a desert wasteland on the periphery of real civilization. A place that only woke up when the spark of progress arrived from somewhere else. From Egypt, from Mesopotamia, from the West. But in 1974, a discovery under the Kachi Plain of Baluchistan shattered that lie completely. It did not just push back human history by a few centuries. It fundamentally rewrote the genesis of who we are as a species. Because 9,000 years ago, while most of the world was still wandering, still surviving day to day, still following herds across open grassland, a miracle was rising quietly at the foot of the Bolan Pass. These people were not just farmers. They were the world's first dentists. Its first industrial engineers. The inventors of a metallurgical technology so advanced that we still use a version of it today to build the turbine blades of jet engines. And their name, the name of their city, has been almost completely erased from the story of human civilization. This is Mehrgarh, the city before all cities. And today, we are going to prove that this forgotten place is the real cradle of human civilization. Welcome to Ancient Frequency, where we dig beneath the surface of history and find the stories the world was never meant to forget. To understand what was discovered in Mehrgarh, you first need to understand the world as it existed in 7000 BCE, that is 9,000 years ago. To put that in perspective, the pyramids of Egypt were built approximately 4,500 years ago. The Roman Empire rose and fell roughly 2,000 years ago. We are talking about a period of time so ancient that most history textbooks simply label it the prehistoric era and move on, as if nothing worth knowing happened yet. That assumption is not just incomplete, it is wrong. And Mehrgarh is the proof. Picture the Kachi Plain as it was in 7000 BCE. Today it is arid and harsh, cracked earth, dry wind, a landscape that seems to resist life. But pollen analysis tells us that 9,000 years ago, this was a radically different world. Dense forests lined the riverbanks. The Bolan River ran full and strong. The air was humid, the land was fertile. It was, in the truest sense, a breadbasket, a place where the earth itself invited human settlement. And at the foot of the Bolan Pass, that ancient natural corridor connecting the Iranian plateau to the Indus Plain, a group of people made a decision that would echo through 9,000 years of human history. They stopped moving. They planted seeds in the ground. They shaped mud bricks with their hands. They built walls. They built rooms. They built a future. And in doing so, they became the first settled civilization in all of South Asia. A civilization that would quietly, steadily, over 5,000 years of continuous habitation, lay the foundation for everything that came after. The site was first excavated in 1974 by French archaeologists Jean Francois and Catherine Jarige, who spent 30 years of their lives in the tribal regions of Baluchistan, uncovering 32,000 artifacts that told a story archaeology was not prepared to hear. This was not a backwater. This was not a peripheral outpost of some greater civilization elsewhere. This was a Neolithic Silicon Valley, a place that invented the templates for urban life 2,000 years before the first pharaoh ever sat on a throne in Egypt. Let us walk through what the Jarige team actually found, layer by layer, because the picture that emerges is extraordinary. In the earliest layers of the site, known as Period 1, the evidence tells a story of a society in the middle of a massive and deliberate transition. They were hunters, chasing wild sheep, goats, and even elephants across the lush Kachi Plain. But simultaneously, they were doing something no other people in South Asia had ever done before. They were domesticating the zebu cattle, those iconic humped bulls that still define the agricultural landscape of Pakistan and India today. This was not accidental. This was intentional. This was a people who looked at a wild animal and asked a question that changed everything. What if we did not have to chase it? They built permanent rectangular houses out of mud brick, some of them painted with red ochre, not round huts, not temporary shelters. Rectangular rooms with compartments, multi-room structures that demonstrate architectural thinking, spatial reasoning, the conscious organization of interior life. And alongside these homes, they constructed something even more significant. They built granaries, massive, compartmented storage buildings designed to hold surplus grain, and that word surplus is everything. A society that stores surplus grain is a society that has broken free from the daily emergency of survival. It is a society that thinks about winter before winter arrives. That plans for drought before drought comes. That looks not just at today, but at next season, next year, the next generation. Mehrgarh had this capacity from its very earliest days. As the population grew, their ambition grew with it. By the time we reach period 2 and 3, moving through the archaeological layers like pages in a book, Mehrgarh had developed what researchers call an industrial vocation. And this is where the story becomes truly incredible. They were not just making things for themselves. They were mass-producing high-value goods for a trade network that spanned continents. Workshops filled with thousands of bone tools and flint drills used for bead-making have been uncovered across the world. They were importing lapis lazuli from the mountains of Afghanistan, over 1,000 kilometers away. Turquoise from mines in modern-day Iran. Seashells from the Arabian Sea coast, hundreds of miles to the south. Think about what that trade network requires. It requires trust between communities who have never met face-to-face. It requires a shared understanding of value. What is this blue stone worth to you? What will you give me in return? It requires merchants and messengers capable of traveling extraordinary distances safely. It requires, in the most fundamental sense, the early architecture of an economy. Mehrgarh had all of this, 5,000 years before the Roman Empire drew its first map. They were a central hub, a Neolithic Wall Street where raw materials from across Asia were transformed into works of art using microlithic drills and vegetal resins as adhesives, creating jewelry of such precision and beauty that archaeologists have described it as high-end even by modern standards. But of all the discoveries at Mehrgarh, and there are many, there is one that stopped the scientific world cold. One that I keep coming back to, not because it is the most dramatic visually, but because of what it reveals about who these people truly were at their core. In a Neolithic cemetery at the site, researchers found the skeletal remains of 9 adults. When they examined the teeth carefully under microscopic analysis, they found something they were not expecting. 11 molar crowns with deliberately drilled holes. Clean, conical boreholes made with bow-driven flint drill tips. The same micro-tools they used for bead-making, now turned with extraordinary precision on the hardest substance in the human body, tooth enamel. The microscopic analysis confirmed beyond any doubt that these were therapeutic procedures. Several of the drilled teeth showed beveling, meaning the dentist had deliberately shaped the cavity after drilling to smooth the edges and prevent further decay. And most remarkable of all, several teeth showed clear signs of wear after the procedure, meaning the patients survived, they healed, they lived. They continued eating with those treated teeth for years afterward. This is the oldest evidence of dental surgery in the history of the human species, dating back 9,000 years. While the rest of the world was still learning how to plant seeds, the people of Mehrgarh were already practicing advanced medicine. Read that again. 9,000 years ago. Dental surgery. With patients who survived. But here is what strikes me most, and I want you to sit with this for a moment. This was not a single practitioner. This was performed across 9 different individuals, which means there was a tradition. There was training. There were students learning from teachers. There were people in this community whose role, whose entire specialized function, was to understand human pain and relieve it. They had a deep understanding of anatomy. They had a culture that valued the health and survival of its members. And they had the intellectual sophistication to develop a precision medical tool, a bow drill, and adapt it from jewelry making to surgery. 9,000 years ago, in Baluchistan. The next time anyone tells you that ancient peoples of this region were primitive or backward, remember those teeth. Now historians and archaeologists have wrestled with a central question about Mehrgarh since its discovery. Why, after 5,000 years of continuous flourishing, did it end? Why did the people leave? Theory 1. The Indus migration theory, the most widely accepted explanation, is that Mehrgarh was never truly abandoned. It was transformed. As the monsoon patterns slowly shifted and the Indus River basin became increasingly accessible, the population began a planned relocation. They moved first 5 miles away to the fortified settlement of Nausharo, and then further east, carrying their knowledge, their architectural techniques, their agricultural systems, and their cultural traditions with them into the fertile plains of the Indus. They did not collapse. They became something bigger. The standardized mud bricks, the communal granaries, the advanced metallurgy, the pipal leaf motifs, All of it was first drafted and perfected in the workshops of Mehrgarh. The Indus Valley Civilization was not a new beginning. It was the graduation of a civilization that had been learning for 5,000 years. Theory 2. The climate collapse theory. Around 2000 BCE, a massive weakening of the monsoon rains struck the ancient world, a climatic event. Researchers now call the 4.1 kiloyear drought event. This was not a local disaster. It toppled empires and disrupted civilizations across the globe, from Egypt to Mesopotamia to China. The Bolan River, the lifeblood of Mehrgarh for 5 millennia, began to fail. Agriculture became unsustainable. Survival required movement. But, and this is crucial, the people of Mehrgarh did not simply collapse and scatter. They planned. They adapted. They relocated. That capacity for organized, intelligent response to crisis is itself a testament to the depth of the civilization that Mehrgarh had built. Theory 3. The population shift theory. A particularly fascinating discovery adds another layer of complexity to this story. Dental morphology studies of the skeletal remains from Mehrgarh revealed something unexpected. The people living in Mehrgarh during the later Chalcolithic period were not the direct biological descendants of the original Neolithic founders. There had been a significant population shift, a moderate but clear influx of people from the Iranian plateau in Central Asia. This suggests that Mehrgarh was not just a city. It was a destination, a magnet. A place so advanced, so prosperous, so strategically located that people from across the ancient world were drawn to it. Mehrgarh did not just grow from within. It attracted the world. Here is my question for you today, and I want you to genuinely think about this. If Mehrgarh is the oldest farming settlement in South Asia, and if its people directly gave rise to the Indus Valley Civilization, then why is this story not taught in schools? Why does almost no one know the name Mehrgarh? Tell me your honest answer in the comments below, because I read every single one. Mehrgarh does not have golden death masks or towering stone monuments or royal proclamations carved into temple walls. What it has is something quieter and perhaps more profound than any of those things. It has teeth with drill marks. It has grain stored in mud brick rooms. It has the bones of cattle that were once wild and became tame under human hands. It has shells that traveled 500 kilometers through networks of human trust to rest in the soil of a Baluchistan hillside. It has the graves of people buried with care, with turquoise and lapis lazuli and food offerings, by hands that loved them. It has the evidence of people who woke up every morning and worked on the fundamental problem of being alive. People who decided that healing was worth learning, that farming was worth the labor, that building was worth the time, that the next generation deserved to inherit something better than what came before. That is what civilization actually is. Not the monuments, not the armies, not the gold. The quiet, daily, generational decision to improve, to heal, to build, to pass something forward. Mehrgarh did that for 5,000 years. The empty fortress was never empty. It was the place where the modern world began. In part 2 we go deeper. We follow the extraordinary story of how the people of Mehrgarh became the world's first industrial engineers and how a 6,000-year-old copper amulet, taken to a particle accelerator in Paris, revealed a secret about their metallurgical genius that nobody expected to find. That story is coming next. Make sure you are here for it.